Proverbs 22:6 and Ephesians 6:1-4. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he or she will not depart from it. And children, obey your parents and the master for the right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, so that it may go well with you and that you may enjoy long life on the earth. Father, do exasperate your children. Instead, bring them up in the training and instructions of the Lord. I'm mainly wanting to make sure, because I know we all have some children that kind of turn away, but they learned it from the beginning. So we just got to hope. I'm standing on those scriptures right now for all of them. So not all of them, but it's always one that I know we probably all have that. So I'm just kind of holding firm to that because they know the truth and always come back. And with that, I'll say, and here's a prayer of her. May Yahweh cause the enemies who rise up against us to be struck down before them. May the Holy One, blessed is he, preserve and rescue our fighting men from every trouble and distress, fighting men and women in distress, and from every plague and illness. And may he send blessings and success in their every endeavor. Blessed are you, Yahweh our God, ruler of the universe, who is has sanctified us with your commandments and commanded us to be busy ourselves with words of Torah. And I kind of added this extra support I felt. And for the slander, let there be no hope, and the slanderers, let there be no hope, and all evil perish in an instant, and may all your enemies speedily be cut off, and the willful sinners speedily uproot, smash, cast them down, subdue speedily in our days. And blessed are you, Yahweh, who smashes our enemies, subdues and willful sinners. And part of those enemies is mainly in our spirit realm too, who is attacking our health as well, and enemy as well as the enemies of Israel. In Yeshua's holy name, come soon, my beloved master and also bridegroom. So that's going to rescue his bride. That's all of us. So,
hallelujah.
Okay.
Hallelujah. Amen. Thank you for that, brother.
Okay.
Very good. Baruch Hashem. Okay, so at this time we have Brother Holsapple. He's back with us again, and he always has some really great things with regard to health. He's doing our health minute tonight, and I'm going to set him up as co-host so that he can share his screen and bring this down there for you, Brother Holsapple. Be able to share what you need to share.
All right. Thank you, brother. Glad to be here. That tonight I want to go over, it's a pretty good little herb, and what I'm trying to find here is different herbs that help our body. I'm trying to find our share screen and get it up here. It's what I got. And there we go. All right. And what I found is in most of these diseases and problems is what we run into is it is a cellular level or a gene level. And upon that is what we want to correct. So in a world that what we have and what we run into is, I think we all know about the GMOs, the genetically modified organisms. They do it with plants, animals, all type of our foods. If we're not careful, we need to be careful with them GMOs because they add that generic modified thing. Well, what that does is it changes our genes. So a gene is the basic physical and functional unit of heredity. Genes are made up of our DNA. Some genes act as instructions, which I found is very intriguing. Instructions, the Torah, right? So the instructions to make molecules called proteins. However, many genes do not code for proteins. So basically, They're our building blocks. They're what make our body. And from a baby, we keep having these DNA. We keep having these go into what we are. And that makes us who we are. So if we have a genetic modified, whatever it may be, it's kind of like the Jacob's ladder, right? Our very DNA is made, we're made in the image of Yahweh. So being made in the image of Yahweh, what I would submit is what is they're trying to do is break that DNA, that chain. And if we're not careful, when we eat these other foods and other things, that destroys breaks up our very DNA and our very genes, our very cells. And this is where I think a lot of diseases, if you go back 200 years or so, there's not diseases like what we know today, and sure not as many. So when we look into these things, there's not near as many disease as what there once was. So there's something that has changed, and I would say what, and it's not a far-fetched thing to say, I don't believe, is our DNA is being changed, and it's being changed into, that's where we come up with cancers and things like that. That's all really these diseases become, is our blood, either our blood or our DNA itself, the sequence of it is being changed. So being in the image of Yahweh, man and woman, right? We're made in the image, so we have him stamped inside of us. But the very minute that we take or partake of something or get something, and it doesn't have to be the food per se, it can also be you're driving down a diesel truck and all that goes into your lungs. That is not what your body is looking for, right? That's not the oxygen you're looking for. So with all that being said, what can we do to help this? Now, of course, we can go to a doctor and try to tell them what's going on. And usually by the time we figured out this is something wrong, then that's why we're sitting at the doctor's office. We're finding out, hey, our lungs, our liver, or this, whatever it may be, had a mishap. So how do we do something? How do we fix this? How do we make that better? Well, here's something that I have found, and I've been digging into a lot of these things to find these different ones, right? So to find the different ones that help at this type of level. And this one here is called Dicernia Sophia. And this is an ancient Chinese drug. They call it a herbal medicine. And a lot of these things, the more we get into them, the more that we realize what they do to our body and how they help our body. This particular one, the reason I said all that is to say this, right? So all that breaking down of your genes, breaking down of your DNA, and breaking your body at a cellular level, this is one that is very potent, and it's potent enough that it can help rearrange or change or connect back those very cells, those genocodes, if you will. And this is not something, I'm making up, but this is something that you can look up for yourself. And I recommend you do, that you would look these things up yourself. But this is something that has been tested, and 3,000 years as went into this, that people were taking it. So with all that being said, we'll just read what it says. The Dicernia Sophia has been used in traditional medicine globally. It has been shown that the DS, save the time, together with many other bioactive compounds, can modulate the biofunctions of various genes. So what I was just explaining there is when we have something that's foreign to our body that breaks these genes down, we need something to stop that, prevent that, or in many cases, try to glue them back together. So this is something that can do that. It's not something that you're going to find on every shelf. It's not something that you're probably going to go to the doctor and say, hey, I have this problem, and they're going to just prescribe it to you, right? But that is what we're doing. That's what we're trying to do, is be as close to the Garden of Eden, if you will, that we can be, to be a plant that we can raise ourselves, we can see it ourselves, We know nobody's poured Roundup or anything on it, and we can go out there and use it. And for times to come, we can have these things to help each other out. So we have viewed the clinical benefits and mechanisms and the action of the DS associated with its current uses and outlined the potential further applications. There are many studies documenting its numerous clinical effects in cancer, respiratory, gastronomical, and cardiac systems. So again, a lot of times what we just have to do is find these out. There's books that have 200 to 300,000 different herbs of these type in nature. So what we want to do is just like anything else, we got to find out what has went wrong. And once we find out what has broke down, that's what we're trying to correct. And in most major diseases, that's what we find is at that level. Now, why it gets so bad so quick is because your body just keeps producing. We produce millions of cells. So just one cell, if you think of it that way, one cell going the wrong way over 24 hours, 10 million cells later, you have a pretty good sized tumor, but amazingly, our bodies heal itself, protect itself, and do a real great job at getting out of all these toxins and all these other things. But every once in a while, again, when we've worked shipyards, different jobs, it really doesn't matter what type of job, being a teacher and people bringing things in, the chalk off the board, the pesticides, there's so much stuff that we run into is unless you live in a bubble, you're probably breathing, inhaling, touching, even going to the supermarket, even if it's as clean as can be. If you look at some of these belts, some of that stuff is pretty nasty looking, if you will, right? So it's like, oh, sometimes I don't even want to put it on there. It's like, oh, can I just carry this and hand it to you because I don't know what is on that. But anyway, so the DS has been shown to exhibit anti-inflammatory, antioxidant activities. So these really help our body, and they really help at a cellular and a gene level, and that's what really matters so much. We usually attack something after the fact, or we're trying to just like a cold or something, we're trying to just get rid of the snivels or trying to get rid of the cough. But if we get rid of the main problem, and for major diseases, then that's what we want to do. So this is something, again, I think it's very important that we help our bodies. I believe that's what the instructions of Torah is all about. He's telling us what to do and what not to do. And because the powers that be, things have happened the way they have happened, we have all these problems. But going forward, praise Yahweh, he has made these things. He knew all this was going to come about. He knew that we was going to have trains, planes, and automobiles. So it's not something he didn't see coming. So I would submit that we have these to help combat that. About 38% of the U.S. and some 75% of the Republic of Korea population have been reported to use the traditional medicine in their healthcare. That to me is amazing when I look these up, because trying to find this here is something to do, right? And most of these that I order, they have to come from Korea or Indonesia or China. And I know a lot of times we're told that that's, bad thing, but we have to get it from somewhere to even grow it ourselves. And the real response, the really thing that I find amazing is there's studies on these. And if you look up Chinese, Japanese, different ones, that they actually use this. They use this for cancers and they use this for different things, right? So it's not something, again, that is unheard of. It's not something that's not untried, but it's something that they've been using. We'll go down a little bit farther for time's sake. And, look this up, of course, yourself and see. There is so much scientific things here. We could be here for quite a while going over it, but there is so much to this of what it helps, what's in it, the fatty acids, flavonoids, all the things that it helps to your body. And a lot of this, is over most people's heads, because if you ain't got a doctor's degree, but if we just take these herbs, we realize in the scriptures that he has these for us. He has what ails us, right? And some of these I would also submit that we could take now before there's something wrong. A lot of people wait until there's something seriously wrong, like a cancer or a respiratory COPD, whatever, that it's a major thing. But if we could take some of these things like this now, before it gets worse or before we get to that point, hopefully and prayerfully, it would keep our body, again, it would keep those genes. What we want to do is keep those cells reproducing. And when we're young, everybody wants to be young if they're healthy, right? And those reproducing cells is what we want to do. So this is one of those things that glue those cells together. And it also, the apoptosis, or what they say, that, like the cancer cell, to help it be destroyed quicker. And we'll read a little bit more. Many studies address the effect of the DS in cancer, respiratory system, and the gastro system, and inflammatory disease. Now, they also say that inflammatory will go and lead to cancer if left alone. So this is something that even arthritis or something they say can cause like a bone cancer or a cancer later on if left unattended, which is very amazing to me. So again, your cells are trying to do their best, but without some type of help or healing, sometimes they start failing, and then they start failing worse. So this again would be something to prevent that, and even according to this and other studies, to use if you have this. Despite advances in clinical medicine, the prevalence of cancer continues to rise, and the disease remains a leading cause of death globally. Mutations in regulatory genes involved in maintaining the balance between the cell proliferation and the cell death lead to rapid cell growth, cell division, and invasion. So again, conventional treatments of cancer such as chemotherapies, radiotherapies, lack specifically, these therapies cannot distinguish normal cells from the cancer cells, thus causing a great damage and death to both normal and cancer cells, resulting in significant adverse effects such as bone marrow suppression, fatigue, all kinds of problems we know that goes on with this. So I'm not saying don't do these things, but what I'm saying, this is something that preventative you can use, and it's something that you can also use while you're taking these. So it helps while your body's being bombarded with these other things. This can help your body to repair itself. If anybody knows about Brother Dennis, I think he showed up. If you know, of course, about radiation and what it does, and just like it says, the bone marrow, it destroys good and bad, but it has to do its job. But some of these like this help your body to recover. So it's trying to repair, glue it, if you will. It's trying to glue your cells back together and your genes back together as best it can. So again, these are not miracle drugs in a way. It's not, some people say, well, I took it and it didn't do nothing. This is not something that's probably going to cure you tomorrow if you got stage 4 cancer. But if you take it over time and you go studies and you do the right things, and of course prayer, right? We cry out to Yahweh and we don't leave that out. But I also believe that he wants us to do our due diligence as well and study to prove ourselves worthy. In closing, I will read this last one. Many studies show that the DS possesses prominent cytotoxic activity against a number of human cancer cell lines, such as lung, liver, colon, prostate, ovary, skin, and stomach. It is therefore offers an option for use in cancer therapy, which is very amazing, I found, because most of these say they need more studies, there's not enough. And if you'll follow this and look into it, if you look into other countries, they say that they use some of these to get rid of cancer altogether. I believe tumors and certain things of that nature, which is amazing. We just have to do our diligence, our studies. It's been considered the main active consultant of DS. So, I would recommend that you look into this and check it out if you know anybody that needs anything like this, or, if you got the time to just dig in, and there's, I don't know how many pages. Some of these are 11 to 20, 30 pages of what all they do. I'm just going to scroll through while I'm closing here. And, you know, some of these are really amazing, amazing things that Yahweh has created here that we can take, plant, use ourselves, and help our bodies to function the way they intend to.
Hey, brother, we got a question here. If
Yes.
you can take one.
Yes.
Says here, can we take this by mouth or capsule? My blood pressure is really high, and I am on blood pressure medicine. That's from one of our participants here. How can you get that, and how can it be taken?
You can take it with the powder, or if you can find it, trying to dig around here. The tinctures are the easiest way to take it, but you have to be careful with them. Here we go. Because some of them have alcohol or water, and some of them are up to 50%. So you're not going to get the same results if you're just starting off with it. But, you know, the tinctures are the easiest way. But I recommend the powders if you possibly can, because if you can get the powder like this here, you get the powder, then I think it works better. It just, you know, this goes through your body quicker because, of course, it's a liquid, but the powders just work better. They just, from my experience, they're more potent. And you can get them and get your own pills, or you can get them in a pill. But again, when you get the pill form, you got to be careful because it has rice, fillers, things of that nature. So you're not getting the whole thing, where if you order from a real good place, again, some of these places that have the powders and the things like this, you know, they're pretty good sources, organic as well. And that, to me, is the most bang for your buck.
Yeah, it sounds
Can
like
you
you get
can
more
you
for your
take a
money too when you get it in powder form.
can
Right.
you take a picture of that powder packet that you have? Maybe email it to us. That'd be good. So I can
Okay.
I won't. So it'll be handy, and I can just take that and get that because I'm familiar with powders. But you just kind of take a spoonful, or I can mix it in with a fruit smoothie or something in the morning. Usually, I just
I got these little. No, some of these things are very, very potent. They're not like you know, the more that you get into this kind of level, I got a little spoon like this here. It's like a little baby spoon, and that's all I take. You take about 3 of these a day, but that is about all you need to start off with, because some of them will drop your blood pressure really quick, so much that you feel the effect within 20-30 minutes. And Stephanie, my wife, she's took some of these before, and she's about fell over. We was over the neighbor's house, and she almost passed out because you know, you just have to treat it as a regular medicine. You can't I wouldn't recommend taking 2 spoons or a spoonful. I'd recommend something just really small. If you don't have something like this, just like a pinchful of it. And you can put it in your smoothie or put it in anything you want to, or water or juice. You know, you can put it in anything like that, but I'd recommend on something like this one, I would recommend start really, really small, and then test your blood pressure, you know, within like an hour, and see how much it drops and everything. And then you get that general consensus of what all you need. And if you need a little bit more, then you add a little bit more, or, you know, a little bit less.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Brother Holsapple. That was a
You're
great
welcome.
presentation.
Yes.
Fantastic. And go ahead and put your emails down in there. Jerry, if you want to put yours in there, and Brother Holsapple, and you guys can follow up on that. That would be great. All right. Let's see here. Okay, now what we're going to do is go to the Watchman Report, and I'm going to do the Watchman Report tonight. And so I think most of you are familiar with our Watchman scriptures. I have had some people come to me and say, what is a watchman? And I was somewhat amused at that, because it does say in Isaiah, where it talks about watchmen being on the wall looking out all night, and they are giving reports. I think there's also some watchman scriptures in the book of Ezekiel, but the general idea is that we are looking at current events in the world and reporting back to you those things that might concern the body of believers. And so what I'd like to start out with is 2 Timothy 3, yea, and all that will live godly in Messiah Yeshua shall suffer persecution, but evil men and seducers shall wax worse and worse, deceiving and being deceived. But continue you in the things which you have learned and have been assured of, knowing of whom you have learned them, this is the Almighty, and that from a child you have known the scriptures, which are able to make you wise unto salvation through faith, which is in Messiah Yeshua. All scripture is given by inspiration of Elohim. It is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness, and that the man of Elohim may be perfect and thoroughly furnished unto good works. So this is my beginning scripture tonight for our Watchman report. And just pay attention especially to that verse 13. But evil men and seducers shall wax worse and worse, deceiving and being deceived. Sometimes we don't focus on the fact that the deceivers are deceived themselves. And, there's people throughout history that really thought they were doing the right thing, and they did horrific things. They did horrible things in the earth, and they were deceived themselves. And so that's something to think about. So what I'd like to start out with is the infiltration. What are the problems? And this has been touched on before, but I thought I would just add some more dimension to it. We're talking about this blurring of the lines between male and female. And, as of 2021, there are now 77 transgender, non-binary, intersex, and otherwise non-cisgenders. That's the word for somebody that's normal, by the way. Cisgender officials serve in public elected positions. So think of that. 77 have infiltrated into the government. This represents a nearly five-fold increase since 2018. Now look at the rate of increase. You've got 18, 19, 20, 21 in 3 years. Wow, five-fold increase. See, in 2018, only 16 openly transgender individuals had been elected to office in the United States. So basically, this is a problem. And you have heard of the ones who are going to the libraries and basically wanting to read books to kids, and they're dressed in very, inappropriate ways many times. This is kind of like a wolf. You see, I've got a wolf here. He's in his transgender makeup. And he says here, I just want to read some books to your chickens. So think about the implication of that. Deuteronomy 22 says, the woman shall not wear that which pertains unto a man, neither shall a man put on a woman's garment, but all that do so are abomination unto Yahweh, thy Elohim. Now in Ephesians 4:17 through 18, now this I say and testify in the Master, that you no longer walk as the Gentiles do in the futility of their minds. Gentiles are futile in their thinking. They think that there's no gender, there's no differences. They are darkened in their understanding, alienated from the life of Elohim because of the ignorance that is in them due to their hardness of heart. Hardness of heart creates ignorance. And this is what Romans 12:2 says, do not be conformed to this word, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of Elohim, what is good and acceptable and perfect. So those of us who understand the word of Elohim, we know that basically Yahweh is he created male and he created female. And so this is something that we need to be on the lookout for. If we have kids in public school, then we need to be careful and make sure that we know what they're reading, and we need to be careful what kind of messages are, being our family is being exposed to. So that's the first one I've got here. Now I'd like to talk a little bit of something about Bill Gates. Bill Gates is really kind of been in the news lately, and he basically he's saying that he not only wants to put these mRNA vaccines in our in the arm. But look at this. He's talking about vaccines in our food supply solves the problem of vaccine hesitancy. So by hook or by crook, and by crook it's going to be, these guys, multi-billionaires, power shakers in the earth, are determined to try to pollute everything, not just our bodies, but our food supply. Thanks to the work of Bill Gates and others, soon absolutely everything we consume, from vegetables to dairy to meat, will contain toxic mRNA, whether we like it or not. Okay, and so now I've got a clip here from Rumble I'd like to show you guys. And let me see if I could find it here. I think this is it. I think you guys should be able to see this.
Possibly go wrong. Another account responded that apparently we're already eating fully vaccinated animal products, not to mention all the GMO plant products that have been on the market and in the food supply for decades. Are you aware of reports that pharma now is looking to inject mRNA into foods? This same account asked. Into fruits and veggies, into animal feed, into fake vaccines for farm animals. Malthusians intend to poison our food supply. All of this has been years in the making. 13 years ago, Gates met with other globalists, including Warren Buffett, David Rockefeller, George Soros, Michael Bloomberg, Ted Turner.
Okay, so that's the Cliff Note version of what's happening. Notice the names that he's dropping. Rockefeller. Rockefeller is one of the main guys that got the pharma cabal started. And Rockefeller is responsible for drumming natural medicine out of legitimacy. In other words, he worked hard to get rid of natural medicine and natural medicine thinking. And so Rockefeller, he really is quite a negative influence. Now, let me see. I've got another clip here. Well, let's take a look at this here. 1 Corinthians 15, 38, 39, but Yahweh giveth it a body as it hath pleased him, and to every seed his own body. So every seed has its own body. Every seed is unique and should not be tampered with. Leviticus 19:19, you shall keep my statutes. You shall not let the cattle gender with a diverse kind. You shall not sow thy field with mingled seed. Look at that. We're not even supposed to mix seeds in the same field. Neither shall a garment mingled of linen and wool come upon you. Okay, now Ecclesiastes 7:13 gives us some wisdom. Consider the work of Elohim, for you can make that straight which he hath made crooked. For who can make, let me repeat this again. For who can make that straight which he hath made crooked? Clearly there is a crookedness in the world that is happening, and this mRNA is going on there. And Yahweh said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, the fruit yielding fruit, the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth. And it was so. Okay, so the point is that Yahweh wants there to be individuality. He wants certain fruits to stay certain fruits, and there's different categories of fruits, and he wants those categories to stay that way. Okay, now there's one other third thing I'd like to take a look at here, but before I do that, let me make sure that I've got all that I was intending to get on. Okay, yeah, look at this here. This is one I wanted to show you guys too. This is on the food thing.
Well, where shall we begin? How about this one? Australia approves mandatory Bill Gates mRNA vaccines for all agriculture. Yeah. Yep, Australia's announced plans to inject Bill Gates mRNA vaccines into all livestock destined for people's dinner plates, according to reports. The Australian government plans to make the vaccine rollout mandatory for all animals, regardless of whether cattle farmers agree or not. This is because the Brits are running them. And they have all of these extra deaths all across the demographics there in the UK. And they just can't figure out what's doing this. If anybody has any doubt that these maniacs, who are at least temporarily in control, want to cull most of us like a bunch of, extra rodents or something, they just want to keep a couple around as pets. You need to turn loose of that concept, because these are maniacs and they do want to do it. How much evidence do we need? We're going to pick on Paul Krugman here pretty bad in just a minute, too. But back to this article now. On May 2nd of this year, Meat and Livestock Australia, or the MLA, announced funding for a project to test mRNA vaccines that can be rapidly mass-produced in Australia in the event of a lumpy skin disease or other exotic disease outbreak. Oh, lumpy skin disease. Be on the lookout for that. And by the way, what happened to monkeypox?
And notice here that the justification, I'm going to stop it there because I just wanted to get a snippet. They're already rolling this out in Australia. Okay, be aware of that. And in Britain. America is the last domino to fall, and they're pushing it hard. Now, this is an article from Food Manufacturing. mRNA vaccines could provide more protection. You see how they're couching it? They want to protect. They're trying to propagandize this as a good thing, but they really have zero clue what the effects are going to be. Well, we already know what the effects are going to be of people. They've been dropping like flies. People that have been unfortunate enough to succumb to these vaccines. Okay, let me see if that's... okay, yeah, now I can go here. I think I'm ready now for this part here. So I want you guys to keep that in mind and be aware of that. Do the best you can to, guard yourself from that. Okay, so now I'd like to talk about a third thing for the Watchman Report that we need to be wary of, okay? And that is that we have a slow takeover of this nation. You remember how the children of Israel were told to just go little by little to take over Canaan land? They were not to try to take it all at once. And the children of Israel were told to just take this little bit, secure that, then expand out a little more. Well, this is actually in Deuteronomy. It talks about how that this same thing will happen in the reverse, where our enemies a little bit will take over, and it'll take a little more, and it'll take a little more, it'll take a little more. So this is Deuteronomy 28, but it shall come to pass, if you will not hearken to the voice of Yahweh thy Elohim, to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command you this day, that all these curses shall come upon you and shall overtake you. And notice it goes through all these curses. And look at this one right here. Yahweh shall cause you to be smitten before your enemies, and you shall go out one way against them and flee 7 ways before them, and shall be removed unto all the kingdoms of the earth. So there is a curse for not following our Heavenly Father's ways. Now notice this. We have President Xi coming into San Francisco, and look at this here. This is in San Francisco, and there's more Chinese communist flags than there are American flags. Okay, that's what's happening right now. Very, very, very concerning. Also, we have a two-pronged attack. We literally have Hamas and other Al-Qaeda and people like that are intent to do Americans harm. We know this because Chris Wray, this is the second time, either today or yesterday, they might have been today, when he came out and said, we have very credible attack. We have very credible reports of an impending attack. We have credible reports. This is Chris Wray. He's the head of the FBI saying this. So let me show you something else here I have in line with this thought. Okay, so now this is a, it talks about here, make no mistake, rising anti-Semitism isn't just a threat to Jews, it's a huge problem for American democracy. that the American flag was taken down on Veterans Days shows just how hostile these so-called anti-Israel protesters are to American values. So it's not just about Israel. They hate this country too, and they hate Christians as well. And you can see this. Okay, so they're taking those flags down. And let's see, what's this other one here? Okay, now notice, this is back to the China thing. Notice the Gavin Newsom's. He admits to remove. Gavin Newsom admits to removing a massive homeless encampment in San Francisco. Had been there, and these people were dying from drug overdoses. It was horrible conditions. And notice what he says about this. As soon as Xi comes to town, President Xi from China, look at how fast he cleaned everything up, and it looks pristine. So it's not that our government is not able to do things; they just there's no will there to improve things for our own people. So here he.
I know folks say, "Oh, they're just cleaning up this place because all those fancy leaders are coming into town." That's true, because it's true. But it's also true. For months and months and months prior to APEC, we've been having different conversations.
Oh, it's interesting. You got to give him credit. He admits to it, doesn't he? All right, now here is Xi. This is Chinese President Xi. He's coming with his motorcade. Now, this is in San Francisco. I want you guys to take a look at this. San Francisco. Now, look at all the Chinese communist flags that are here. It's unbelievable. Okay, so there's that one. Let's see if we can go to the next one here. Look at that. Here's a picture here for you guys. Essentially, what we have here. I mean, look at this. This is just unbelievable. These communist flags that you see all over the place. And look at all of these supporters here in San Francisco. These are supposed to be American citizens. And they are openly lauding a dictator, President Xi. Here he is again. Okay, so I say all this to, let me get back to my screen here. I say all this to warn the watchman on the wall. He warns. The Bible tells us that if we forsake his commandments, then the Father will tear down what his blessings built up. And so this is very important to consider. So that's my Watchman report today. And I think we have some good comments here. Yeah, it's been heartbreaking to hear the stories of these youth who have gone through gender change and then regretted it. These people are all part of the NWO cabal. That's a good comment. Okay, let's see. Notice the police are just standing there and watching. That's right. They're not. Welcome to the globalist empire. Okay, absolutely, my friend. So in every nation, there should be watchmen watching out. As believers, we should be concerned about this because for our safety and our loved ones' safety's sake. So take precautions. We do have a high terrorism alert. This is a Watchman report brought to you by Professor Smith tonight. With that, do we have any, just time for one or two comments? That's it. Okay, we're getting short on time here because we still got a little study to go through. Any thoughts, any comments on anything that I presented? Go ahead, Dennis.
All right. Yeah, I believe that Yahweh has predicted these events would happen within Revelations. The events, they are unfolding. The events in Israel, the communist things in San Francisco, they are unfolding because people are not getting right with Yeshua.
Mm-hmm.
They are unfolding because the Messiah Yeshua is who we should be following.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Great comment there, Dennis, and you're absolutely right. Hallelujah. All right. So at this time, we're going to do our music special, and then I will introduce Giacomo. I think you guys have seen Giacomo before, and I've got some notes for him, and he's going to give us a little bit of a Bible study tonight. Not there yet. We need our music. I thought I had my, okay, we'll have to go back to that one. This is what I wanted, our music here. Share. Okay, where's it at? Okay. All right.
Making me a clean heart, oh yeah, and renew a steadfast spirit in me, making me a clean heart, oh yeah, and renew a steadfast.
Give me a minute here, folks. I'm having trouble getting this. Some reason we can't get this. There we go. All right, let's try that.
Steadfast spirit in me. Do not cast me away from your presence. Do not take your Holy Spirit from me. From me. Restore to me the joy of your salvation and sustain me with a willing spirit. Restore to me the joy of your salvation and sustain me with a willing spirit, that I may show transgressors your ways, and sinners will turn back to you, that I may show transgressors your ways, and sinners will turn back to you. steadfast spirit in me.
Okay, making me a clean heart. Oh yeah. And the scripture there is taken from Psalms 51. Create in me a clean heart, Elohim, and renew a steadfast spirit within me. Do not cast me away from your presence, and do not take your Holy Spirit from me. Restore to me the joy of your salvation, and sustain me with a willing spirit. Then I will show transgressors your ways, and sinners will turn back to you. Now, that's a wonderful psalm, isn't it? Okay, so at this time, we have Giacomo Knox, our good brother. He has come many times and shared with us health information, but tonight he's going to give us a little bit of a Bible study, and he's been gracious enough to agree to do that. And so, Brother Giacomo, are you there?
I am here. I've got a cat on my shoulder as usual. Shalom, everyone.
Hallelujah. Go ahead, brother.
So I started a little bit on this, and we're all not strangers to the Torah portion whatsoever. This is Toldot, meaning generations. Of course, this is the story of the war between the two twins in the womb of Rivkah. And certainly, I think if we've all been around this walk long enough and done our basic exegesis, we know that Esau is a symbol of the base human aspect of our makeup, if you will. And the Kurdians started reading it again and looking at, what his name is. I think it's Aleph, Sheen, and Vav. I couldn't really dig into any of that too much deeper than I possibly could. But what I've been told, and I'm trying to find the Talmudic resource that indicates this, that Esau, he's known as a skilled hunter, yada, 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 but it's been said that he would hunt game with his teeth. In other words, he would come up upon the animal he was hunting and bite into it and drag it back to his tents, apparently. Again, it's not actually written in the Torah portion, but you could see that someone, as we look down in the greater level of the things that he has done, all impulsive and such. So I got down to Bereshit 25:27, and it literally starts the differences right there. That he was an Esau was a skilled hunter, a man of the field, and Yaakov was a quiet man dwelling in tents. And I was watching Barry Phillips' 10-minute Torah portions today. Again, because Talmudic sources indicate that Yaakov was about the Torah. He'd be in his tents studying, whatever information they had from Yahweh at that point, where Esau was out in the field, ostensibly, if they're right, attacking game with his bare teeth. And I got that down my second bullet point there. And you can see that impulsive behavior where he goes out into the field, doesn't catch anything, but he comes in famished. And in verse 32, I am at the point of death, which is interesting. Someone who's that much of a wild man and impulsive and the most skilled hunter that we know of besides the builders of the Tower of Babel, after all. But here he is. Look, I'm getting ready to die. Just feed me already. Yeah, what use is it to my birthright and such? And you can see that impulsive behavior right about there. He already knows he's the Bechor, he's the firstborn. He gets that blessing from Yitzhak. Instead, he trades it for a single meal. And I believe that speaks to all of us in how impulsive our decisions can be, where we want the instant gratification when it comes to learning the word and pursuing our lives here in the natural, unfortunately having to work for Pharaoh in our various jobs if we're working. And so it seemed better to him to go ahead and have this meal right about now than let me go back out there and try to catch something else. And obviously he couldn't possibly do it. And as well, you see in my other notes down there, apparently it's traditional for red lentil stew to be served on the occasion of someone's death. So we know that, of course, Yaakov took Esau's blessings, and Esau made a promise to him, as soon as the days of our father's mourning are complete, I'm going to kill you. So we're looking at that red lentil stew possibly being served at that point. We could be days away from, I'm sorry, I think it was actually Abraham. We could be, days away from Esau going after his own brother, which is the reason why, of course, Rivkah sent him off, like, hey, go find someone else. You better get out of here. What I loved about this part of the portion, of course, is hearing it and finally reading it for myself. At the end of that chapter, I think it's chapter 28, we see that Esau maybe still wanted to be a good son to his father, Yitzhak, when he says, or when he notices that, right down here, my last clear bullet point, and Esau seeing it, the Banot Canaan, or the women, or the daughters of Canaan, please not Yitzhak Esav. So what he does, instead of getting a Canaanite wife, he goes into the nation of Yismael and finds his wife, 2 wives, in fact. So it looks as if that spirit of Esau disappeared and became a part of Ishmael, which I think is what the problem we're having right now with brother Ishmael at this point, that he's still responding to that base human nature, and instead of being reasonable like Yaakov, went to attack. Yep. And that's what I got out of this week's Torah portion. And that's it. That's it. That's what I got.
That's pretty good, brother. Yeah, there's a lot there that we can discover in the differences between Esau and Jacob. And I remember that Jacob, it says he was a man of the tent. And, I know that some of the rabbis have written, and they said that means that he was a studious man. And whereas Esau, like you pointed out there, a skilled hunter, and he was impulsive. And so those are lessons for us, because we can either be more like Jacob or more like Esau. And we want to beat back the Esau nature. We want to have patience and work for things, and also understand the spiritual realm and the consequences thereof. So that was a great message. I appreciate that, brother. Have any other comments for brother Giacomo's study tonight? Any other comments or thoughts? Okay. Any comments on anything? Either anything you heard tonight, or something you would like to share? Just something perhaps that struck you this week and you would like to share? Maybe.
I got one thing to share. Am Yisrael Chai. The nation is really taking it to Hamas right about now. Yeah, and granted, unfortunately, and being a combat veteran, I know this, you do get a lot of collateral damage when you're engaged in an operation like that. Nevertheless, they've got the hospital surrounded. They've killed 2 major Hamas leaders. This can be over in days, hopefully. Baruch Hashem.
Yeah, I've seen that. And they are hiding in the hospitals, it appears. Really, quite a difficult situation over there. All right. Well, at this time, then, let's take a look at our calendar real quick here. Past that there. Okay, we'll take. Oops, boy, this thing likes to jump ahead on me, doesn't it? All right, let's see if we can get our calendar. This might be it here. Yeah, there we go. Can you guys see that okay? All right, so we have missions. This is a mission meeting tomorrow, but also remember we have Brother Yaakov Kramer presenting for Shabbat. He does a great job. And so I want to encourage you to guys, if you don't have a regular Sabbath service to come to the Sabbath service, and it's www.theyahad.com. Now, this one's a different. It's yahad.link. It's theyahad.com for this one, but there's the Zoom room number if you want it. And so that's at 11 o'clock on Saturday. Doesn't look like we have too much here scheduled. So that's about all we have for our calendar. Okay, and so we will finish up this part here. And if there's anyone who has any prayer requests, we can pray for them after the recording's finished. And for those who want to stay after, if you would like us to pray for you. So we'll do the final Aaronic benediction. And so, Yivarekaka Yahweh, Vayishmareka, Yaher Yahweh, Panavaleka, Vikuneka, Yisa Yahweh, Panavaleka, V'yasem leka, leka shalom. Yahweh bless you and keep you. Yahweh make his face shine on you, be gracious to you. Yahweh lift up his countenance on you and give you shalom in the name of Yeshua Messiah, Prince of Peace. The service is finito. All right, so for those of you who'd like to reach out to us, Dr. Snyder, you can reach out to him at virolyahad@gmail.com. Go to the website, virolyahad.com. Myself here in Greenwood, the Hebrew Messianic Israel community, we are together in Yahad. That means togetherness and fellowship. And so this is brought to you by New Earth Restoration, Hebrew Messianic Israel. And so we want to thank you so much for joining us. And for those who want to stay after, please do. And so for those who are out there in cyberspace, shalom, shalom, and we hope to see you again.